I would now invite Carlo to take podium here. Carlo is an engineer by trade. He's over a decade of experience and he's comfortable with technologies ranging from assembly to Rails apps to RF. Carlo is also strongly passionate about education and teaches postgraduate technology and management course at another college. He has led a startup named Camerati, a platform dedicated to helping skilled construction professionals showcase their work, differentiate themselves, and win more jobs. Please help me welcome Carl.
All right, hi. So again, my name is Carlo. I'm going to try and keep this as tight as possible. Try and help us get as much out of it as we can and on time. And watching TV soon enough. So again, my name is Carlo Perez. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Camerati. You've heard some great talks today. I'm sorry that I couldn't join you for something. It turns out when you're a coder, sometimes people ask you to code, and that's kind of where I was. But I heard that the talks were great, and what I was invited here today to do by Jonathan was to present a case study, which is on our company, Camerati. And what's always interesting about being asked to present a case study is, well, do you want me to present a case study that's positive or negative? And which one is it, really? So I'm going to leave you guys to decide whether this is a positive or negative case study. But either way, I'm going to start out with something that is one of my favorite quotes from startups, and I kind of start a lot of my talks this way. My favorite quote about startups is that startups are like a crashing airplane. So you're in this plane, right, and you're riding along, and you got your little touch screen, and then all of a sudden there's a few bumps, and then all of a sudden you look out the window and the engine's on fire. And you're like, oh dear, the engine's on fire. And then all of a sudden there's this screaming, and then there's baby, I don't know if there's babies, but there's things that happen, right? And then I guess the analogy is really about your bank account. And your job as the entrepreneur is to take that plane and pull it up as quickly as you can before it reaches its final destination, which is, well, hitting the ground. So I started to use this analogy in my interviews with my team. I have a team of 7 right now. I started to change that to an analogy about a long road, where you kind of have this kind of nice hope in the background. The road is long, but there's a little bit of cloud, so you don't really know. It's kind of like peril kind of mixed in with hope in a blender, right? So that's kind of, and I think that what I'm here today to talk about is kind of that long road. And with startups, is everyone here, or is anyone here in the technology space? Is anyone here looking to do a startup that's in like a website or anything like that? Anyone, just by show of hands? And if any, okay, cool. So I think that maybe, well, I'm going to tell you a story, and hopefully this is applicable to as many in the room as possible. But in tech startups, you usually see them progress really fast, and you see IPOs at $120 million, right? I sat down with one the CEO of FreshBooks once, and he told me, that's just not how it is, right? He sat in the basement for 4 years with his buddy programming before he became the largest invoicing company online in the world, and it just takes a really long time. So case study today is on my team. This is not the right road. I don't know what the right road is, but it is a road, and it's here for you to look at in as much detail as I can get away with. I like hearing stories. I'm just going to tell a quick one about how I got started in this. This is a picture of Sagarmatha National Park in Nepal. It's kind of the place where I think that my entrepreneurial ventures started. My background is I'm an engineer, entrepreneur, and an educator. Research and development is kind of where I started, and I end up on this mountain. And somehow after that, after hitchhiking for a long while, I ended up doing 2 things that I said that I would never do in my life, which is teaching and starting a business. And those 2 things are now the only things that I can ever see myself doing for the rest of my life, which is kind of this weird trick, I guess, whoever's up there plays on you. So I talk about that irony because I think that in rooms like this, what I probably really wanted to hear was when I was in seats like you guys are in, was that it's really, really hard to take yourself away from these 2 things that they put around your wrists called golden handcuffs. And some of you probably know what that is, some of you don't, but that is when you're working for a corporation and they give you lots and lots of nice free lunches and dental appointments and whatever, and massages, and then you say my life is wonderful because I get to go downstairs on the first floor and there's a masseuse. And that is wonderful, but I guess what I'm trying to say is what I've discovered is a little bit of a reward that's beyond that. It's kind of one of those rewards where you work for 80 hours a week for 3 years and you don't feel like you've actually worked for 3 years. So that's kind of where I'm at. Actually, I do feel like I work, but anyway. This picture is probably where the story really starts. This is a picture of my sister's condominium in about February. It turns out that this is a renovation that she started, and then it took 2 years to complete it. It's actually still not done. We took a crowbar and hammer and ripped the rest of it down earlier. It was actually a lot of fun. I'm a computer engineer, so I couldn't actually help her with this problem. So what I did is I just started learning a lot, as much as I could about the construction industry. And then what I ended up doing was saying, well, this is a real problem. I created a website called Unoa. Unoa is a good contractor, a good plumber. It's online bidding for home renovation. So customers post jobs, contractors bid, better bathroom, lower price, big smiles, sister is happy, right? And so this is launched across Canada. We've seen some great traction with it. We kind of launched it last year, 2011, and then in the fall of that year, we kind of said, yeah, we're awesome, and then we said, wait a second, that's only Toronto, Calgary, and Vancouver, and this is much bigger. This is of course North America. Tough crowd in here. Tough crowd. Just so you know, I'm not saying. Just saying. We were driving a couple hundred homeowners to our website in Toronto only, and that was really, really difficult. SEO or search engine optimization is a really tough game. And this market is actually just under $500 billion, growing in double-digit rates. Chicago is 10 times the size of the market of Toronto. So 200 jobs in Toronto is rah, 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 but tell me something that's interesting on a global or North American scale. What we decided to do, and this was the scariest thing that we probably did in 2 years, that was 2 years after the mountain thingy, is we sat down and we went back to the drawing board. And what we did was we said, okay, well, what drives these job leads? And that's a great, great thing. We're doing all right at that. And then we said, well, what if instead of fighting this battle everywhere we go, right, in Chicago and Los Angeles and San Francisco, etc., what if instead of fighting that battle, we approach companies that are like Unoa, and instead of driving job leads, we help supply them with the contractors they need to fill those job leads. And we're like, oh, okay. So this would be an example of what Todd called a pivot, right? So we did that, and what we came up with was this thing that you now know that is my company name. It's called Hammurati. Hammurati is a business, like I said, that helps companies like Unoa. It's a LinkedIn for the construction industry that helps contractors easily publish themselves online and connect to work opportunities and each other. So again, helping people get their home renovations done to helping contractors and supplying that market instead. But of course, as I said, still with the same kind of vision, which is to kind of help correct and improve the overall renovations market. So today, Hammurati we're actually just leaving beta. We launched it earlier this year. It's just gotten itself to just under 5,000 contractors, which has been great. And that's kind of the story. So I want to kind of recapitulate and go back over what was talked about today in terms of lean, and go through the details of that road. And you can determine how we actually got there, and the clouds and the sun and whatever that was involved. So, and they're not always pretty images that I'm going to be putting up. So this is the first wireframe that we ever created of the first service that we put out called Unoa. I didn't know what a wireframe was at the time. I think we were using whiteboard chat with some online tool with our designer, quote unquote. And I'm not a designer. I know you're shocked. But I am a coder, right? So I am a coder. And so what I started to do was, I was like, man, this is a great idea. Let's start building, all right? And so this picture says a lot about my understanding of lean methodology when I started my company. I had 1 million, maybe even 1,000,001 great ideas, but I had absolutely no clue which one of them I was supposed to build. So I knew PHP, SQL, all these things that you use to make web pages. I was self-taught, and I just started building everything. I built a bidding system. I built payments. I built invoicing. I built a messaging system. I built a social network, and It was pretty good. I'm not gonna, but basically, I was the Forrest Gump of coding. I was coding and coding and coding, and I had no idea why. And then one day, I mean, it's hilarious, but then you think, okay, that was a year of my life, and I didn't play beach volleyball at all over the summer. Lost my girlfriend. And the impact is it took a year to launch this product. It was absolutely ridiculous. And then, where were you guys at that time? Thanks. So we built this thing, we got it out, and it ended up being, okay, that's not bad. Okay, it's not great. I learned a lot about Rails. I didn't learn anything about business. At the end of the day, we launched it spring of 2010. We didn't see very much traction at all. Surprise, surprise. It's not that people didn't want the product, but we heard some people say that they wanted it. It just wasn't working out. So that's when we started to try and sit back and say, well, maybe this whole web business thing ain't as easy as it's cracked up to be, like we thought it was easy, but apparently it's not. The first thing that I really did that kind of got me boosted into the entrepreneurial community is kind of what you guys are doing here, which I think is great. We got connected to the Mars Discovery District downtown, talked to some of the advisors there, had really great experience with them. If you want to know about them, you can ask me a little bit later. Started talking to entrepreneurs. As an engineer by trade, I just like talking to customers is hard. Talking to people is hard. It's like hi. Like it's just really hard for me. So I was super introvert, and it's just really hard to just to talk to other businesses. Started doing that, and then someone introduced me to this blog post by a guy named Ash Moria, and that blog post was created what was, I guess, a liminal moment for myself and my company, because the blog post talked about customer discovery, and it was an introduction into the lean process. And it was just basically mind-blowing, and that's when we started to get lean. Stop grabbing. So basically what we started to do is it was a very basic version of what these guys talk about. I picked up the phone, I just started calling people and asking them if they would sit down with me for a coffee, and then I would ask them if they, I knew if they owned a home, but then I would ask them if they knew anyone who did a renovation, and I would ask them until I got to about 60 or 70 people that I had spoken to. Again, really difficult thing for me. And then what we did was we took our product and we started stripping it down. Social network, underground, right? Let's take this invoicing system, just put it aside for now. Might do good one day. And then basically in the fall of 2010, this is about 6 months later, we came out with another beta, which was something that we felt was actually we could put out on the market. So first part of the story was, again, so this is us getting to lean and how it really helped us. And then the second part of the story, so the first evolution was lean. The second part of it is this piece that we just talked about, which is metrics. Right? So how did we become a metrics-driven company, which I believe that we are today? So before I talk about metrics, I spill a little beans about how we drove customers in our earlier days. Turns out getting customers is really hard, apparently. And so what we did, we turned to the best company that get customers ever. We turned to Google. And we said, dear Google, can you please send us customers to our landing page, or to the page where people are landing and checking out what we do. We tried a lot of different channels, Facebook, LinkedIn, we tried Bing, Yahoo, we did press, PR, we did blah, blah, blah. Nothing apparently matches the intentionality of the searches through Google. It's just outrageous in terms of the quality of the clicks that we were getting. The clicks, however, were very expensive. Has anyone ever done AdWords or dealt in it? Yeah, it's not the greatest. I mean, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for kitten boots, it might be pretty cheap. I don't know. No offense to anyone in the kitten boot market, but I heard it's big. But the $3 a click, it's quite a lot, right? So it kind of comes back to that whole lean and agile methodology, which is, okay, that click is costing you $3 and you got no money because you're climbing around on a stinking mountain in Nepal, then you better make sure that you iterate fast on figuring out why that click is important to you, or if it's not important, or learn something from it. So tools that were listed in the last presentation were really important. And then just watching it change, and then just building, measuring, and learning, which is kind of the agile process, right? One really interesting thing about all of this is that when we were driving traffic, we found that the landing page wasn't actually where people were leaving our site the most. They were hitting the landing page And what they were doing was I don't know how many people do this, they were scrolling all the way down to the bottom and clicking About. And they're going to the About page, and they were seeing these photos. Like, it was like my Facebook photo, and like my other friends. Like, it was like these people are trying to post. Like, the average renovation is $15,000 in Canada, right? These are people that are spending real money, and then I'm like, yo, give me your renovation. So I'm not hiring from this room afterwards. So our About page, we actually went out. We got professional photos done by our friend, and we did. We got someone to do copy. One of our copyeditors, great, made us sound like we were really professional. And then we kind of redid our landing page. And what we realized is that About page is like, oh, it's all about social proof. It's all about proof. So testimonials. What do we do? And then those likes. They're all vanity for sure, right? So we got well, I shouldn't say it. I think people like us. But at the end of the day, it's surprising. So that like little bit actually did drive click-throughs on the front page. Whether they were meaningful at the end of the day is another story. So this is what we ended up launching in 2011 with. This was the lander. We went to press with this. And then as we went to press, we started replacing that little middle section with as many logos as we could, right? It was like logo collection. And I actually don't look at going to press as an acquisition strategy. I actually look at it as a way, well, ultimately when they land on the page, it's an acquisition strategy, but it doesn't drive traffic. You're in the paper, you're out of the paper. You're on Dragon's Den, you're off Dragon's Den. It doesn't really drive consistent traffic. So logos, great. Consistent traffic, not so great. This is an example, of course, really what we were doing here was lander optimization, which was discussed in the last one, just trying to figure out exactly what people are reading. This guy here is our unique value proposition. And so what we were doing, it really wasn't what was discussed in the last talk. We really only started doing metrics in the true sense that we're doing it now when we found out about pirate metrics. So I really, really do recommend, I know that I wish I had a business background so I could really validate exactly how good what Dave McClure says is, but at the end of the day, it absolutely revolutionized at least my business. So the thing that we did after going through those presentations online, we really started to understand our business, right? We took those metrics and we understood the funnel, and it amazed me how little I knew about what we were actually doing. The second thing that it did when we started looking at metrics was it started to allow us to build a believable financial model, right? And so financial projections, if you've ever pitched, they just usually get laughed at. Why do they get laughed at? Because it's an assumption times a hypothesis times a guess, and you have no validation. But what can you not laugh at? You can say, well, here's all the metrics and conversion rates that prove that are important to my business, and what I did for a year is I moved this conversion rate up like that. And then they can say, oh, well, you really tried to move something, you really focused on something. And that's not something to laugh at all, especially if that line is your revenue. And finally, I guess the last most important thing to the metrics piece is that what it brought us was this incredible laser focus. The hardest thing in our startup, at least, has been of the myriad, millions, and trillions of things you could do on any given day as the person with the vision and the blah, blah, blah. What do you pick to do? Is it the lander? Is it the paywall? Do you go on a team building paintball excursion? What's the most important thing to do on a given day? And the metrics solve this. Because if everything you do is tied to a metric, and all the metrics are tied to your financial model, that means that everything you do is tied to your financial model and affects the bottom line. So if I'm doing something on any given day, I can just stop and say, am I wasting my time? Probably not. No, anyway, we'll leave that one alone. But it's really helped us. Step one, so there's two things that we did. So I just want to tell you how we did our metrics. So step one was we just wanted to really define out our important metrics. For us, what was really important was one, just the number of uniques into the top of, into the front page. For acquisition, were the percentage of uniques that were greater than 60 seconds on our page. Did they stay for 60 seconds or did they just hop off? For activation, that was a matter of how many customers came and posted a job and how many of those jobs were legitimate. So we actually had a two-stage activation set of metrics. And then we kind of had a retention metric around did the customer come back and respond to the contractors. And finally, how many jobs actually closed was our revenue metric. So sorry, I'm kind of rushing here. The second step after defining those metrics was to do science. And it turns out science is useful for some people or over time. So we got really scientific about the way we were looking at our metrics. We built out a dashboard, weekly metrics reporting from everyone on the team. And the job became, and this is the revolution, the job became you do not do what you're assigned to do. Your job is to move the metric you've been assigned to. And that's it. I don't care how you do it. It can be Facebook, it can be an email campaign. You can run around on the street in a gorilla suit. If you move the metric up by next week, we'll run around the gorilla suit again next week. Maybe 2 gorillas, maybe 3. Who knows? But you've moved your metric, and to heck with the Facebook campaign if it's not working, right? So I got everyone on the team, tell me what the challenges are for your metric. Give me solutions for those challenges, and then take those solutions and prioritize them. And that's what you're working on. And finally, to the whole lean part, nothing was ever done unless you could prove you could test it. We went to the home show in 2011. What was great was, how do you measure it? So we had signs. You guys all been to a trade show or a home show? There's people, houses that are nicer than mine. They have these signs, and so we would have these signs with, get up to 4 bids within 24 hours, right? And then we put that up for an hour, and then for the next hour, we'd switch the signs. And the signs would be fast online cost estimates. And then we'd do a cohort. We didn't know that it was called that, but thank you. We did a cohort analysis of which signs were working the best. And then so we started, and then it turns out actually that we just really needed to put up logos of CTV, blah, 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 blah. That or you pay people to walk by your booth. So if you ever do a trade show, just get paid people to stand in front of your booth and you'd be amazed. That or that of flashing balls. People go crazy with that. So that in a nutshell is how we became a metrics-driven company. And again, like I said, it allowed us to have a focus that we didn't have before, and it really kind of revolutionized how we operate. So that brought us to the end of 2000. I don't even know who this is. Okay. All right. So this brought us to the end of 2011. And along that road, so we discovered Lean, which was a great thing. Started to save us huge amounts of time. We became a metrics-driven company, which was really, really important in terms of focus. But then despite 2011 being a great year, we took a look at that revenue metric and we said, well, we're not moving that fast enough. And so that was where the pivot to Hemorrhoid came in. It was a brand new product, different target customer, but this time with our learning, we were a little bit more ready than we used to be. I won't go through too many of these details because I think that it's not as applicable to everyone, but our customer discovery was really deep this time around. We did a lot of marketing research, pulling papers. Mars is great for that, user advisory services. You can pull huge research with like Forrester, Gartner, all those $10,000 reports. And we did a lot of customer discovery, right? So just calling people, calling contractors and figuring out what their biggest pain points are. Of course, finding work is a really tough thing. One thing that you may not know is that contractors have just as much trouble, if not more, than us in finding their own contractors or subtrades, right? Finding subtrades for them is a huge, huge problem. We didn't know that until we started asking them. And so if you ask yourself, where did the LinkedIn for construction come from? Well, that's probably where that feature came from. So we came up with a solution. We started to build a little bit more intelligently than before. Very quickly, I won't go through each item on this like I was going to. We took all of our business goals, and then we said, what features are going to implement those goals? So the goal is to make sure that they can easily get themselves online. The feature is we're going to make sure that they have a showroom that they can easily publish themselves with. And then what we start to do is create use cases. So what are all the things that you need to be able to do on the website to be able to implement the feature which gets you to the goal? Right, so there's things like users should be able to log on to the site, users should be able to upload photos, you should be able to show this to their customers, et cetera, et cetera. Then we took this giant thing, these are really long board meetings, just so you know, and we just, we chopped it down to the smallest thing that we could find. And those use cases, what they ended up doing, they started telling us what to build. So we started creating wireframes. Once those were approved, we started building the back end. Technical details, they're not very interesting. What we did, maybe this will be interesting. The way that we actually build in our company is we split our designers and our engineers, and we don't let them hang out. Well, we let them hang out, but we don't let them do this work together. It turns out that we found that designers need to design to ideals, and when you give engineers design work like me, they end up cutting corners because they have to code it at the end of the day. So it's a complete conflict of interests. Using a combination of Agile and Lean, as well as a ton of customer discovery, this is what we built in 3 months. This is an example of the showroom. And what's most important is that through our customer discovery, we kind of knew exactly what they were going to want and that they were already going to like it. So you're looking at an example of the profile, another example of how they would show their customer photos. And then the big step back here that I usually get is, whoa, that's not minimum. How is that minimum? That's not minimum? And so it's not minimum in that it's the smallest amount of features, like I said, but this is what they wanted. And so this is what we created, and this is what's desirable. So we kind of refer to that as a minimum desirable product. And depending on where you sit, on the PC or the Apple side, you may or may not have a different philosophy about this. I love Lenovo's. I'm just not going to click this. And the other part of that too is renovations are a very visual business, right? So you can't. No one wants a beta renovation. You start a renovation site, we put beta at the top of the front page. No one wants a beta renovation. It doesn't work so well. So. I guess then, just to kind of close it out, metrics, they're a very, very important part for us today. What we focus on right now, or what I focus on, is really visualizing those metrics and making sure that they're in front of everyone's face so that the company, the team, can stay aligned to the common goal, which is, there's 1,000 things happening. How do we make sure we're impacting the business in the right ways? Well, I'll tell you a little bit more about other stuff later. Last one, does anyone know who this is? Showing my age. Okay, well, let's go to the next slide. So the last benefit of Lean, so this is Flock Seals, whatever. The last benefit of Lean is, the thing that I've realized most is that obviously your resources are super duper limited, right? And the most important role, or the thing that you have, is your people. So just don't waste their time. And insofar as you take a look at Lean, you believe it, you don't believe it, what it did for us is it made sure that I could protect the time of my teammates, right? Protect their time, use Lean to show velocity, find them, hang on to them, and love them, right? Because they are your most important asset. And then, maybe at the end of the day, you'll end up like this as opposed to my first slide. So that's my story. I think that I cut some up, but I think we're still over time.
Okay.
Sorry, Alex, you can go now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
How big is your team? Just for you?
Yeah, 7.
7?
Yes.
So, and all of you 7, you went through the Lean program?
No. We started out, there was 2 of us, and then there's 3 of us, and then there's 2 of us, and there's 4 of us. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's metastasizing all over, but I don't know. But it's expanded and shrunk over time, so it works. I don't know what the other is.
Did you find the lead process was any different for you because you had 2 being contractors, 1 being with renters, and also, did you ever reach a point where you had to prioritize one customer over the other?
Yeah, very much so. So I think the first question was, did I find the lead process difficult because of the 2?
Or different?
Different? Not really, because we did both sides, and we actually found you asked the same things, and it's just a matter of trying to find out the right pain points and then the right hypothesis and solution for them. In terms of, sorry, what was the second question?
Have you ever found that you had to prioritize one set of needs
Yeah.
or one solution over the other?
Right, so the original solution with homeowners, we were tackling that problem, and we thought that was really the right way to get out there and fix the problem. And then we found out that, well, really no one's trying to fix it from the other direction, which is, our company now, what we do is we provide tools that fundamentally enhance and improve the renovation experience. And we facilitate that change in experience through contractors. So it's fulfilling the same vision. We still have, we still have Emirati, but we're kind of doing it in a different way. It's a little complicated.
How do you differentiate yourself from HomeStars?
Yeah, that's a great question. Are you an investor in HomeStars? Smile like you might be. HomeStars. So HomeStars is a review site. They're kind of like Angie's List. What people do is they come online and they post reviews, and then when we contractors see those reviews, they come on and they say, oh, I don't want to not have that bad review up. I'm going to pay you guys, and I'm going to. And so HomeStar, I know the CEO, they do great service for consumers. What we do is we provide, for the homeowner, any renovation you do, we're going to get you 4 bids completely online within 24 hours. A couple jobs today, one of the bids was for $400,000 home edition, right? So we're a bidding platform for the consumer side. For the contractor, we have no agenda to have you be kind of placed in front of consumers and have random reviews placed. Or sorry, they're not random. I should take that back. They do have a strong verification process. It's just we're not in the review game. We're in the help you find work, win work, and make the customer happy. That's what we're trying to do.
How did you, because you bring together customers and people who want to renovate something, how do you protect the person who wants to have a renovation? How did you cover yourself legally, and how did you verify, you put on your website that the contractors who validate you in a way?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Okay, so I guess a couple questions. So it was a legal question, and then how do we actually do it? So we built automation tools to figure out how to actually do it. We check their licensing, we check their insurance, we check their WSFA, all of that stuff. We require testimonials, reviews, etc. We can do background checks, criminal, and all that other stuff, right? So there's quite a strong qualification process. From the legal perspective, we worked with a fairly good law firm, and what their analysis of that was, well, bidding for services online is kind of a newer thing. It's still the same as eBay in terms of you become the facilitator of the connection, and at that point your liability is released. So that's the way that the user policy, or sort of the user agreement is written out.
I have a question about metrics. So, we heard stick to the top 3 or 5. Do you find that the longer you get into business, the more you want to go deeper, and you end up with this long list, or is your dashboard now so big that it doesn't fit on one page anymore?
Yeah, actually it's strikingly the same dashboard in a lot of ways. What we've started to do is kind of subcategories. So the things that I look at, for example, user, like technology, etc. So it's just gotten a little bit more sophisticated, but at the end of the day, we're still kind of maintaining those kind of 4 or 5 ones. Yeah. That's it. Okay, thank you very much.